So I was thinking about the last couple of weeks online on the internet, not necessarily just this channel, but all over the web when it comes to some of these newer shows, these new streaming shows, and just how varied and versatile the opinions have been. So I'm talking about specifically Andor, She-Hulk, and Rings of Power. So I did not like Andor. I did not like Rings of Power, but I do like She-Hulk, and it's interesting because even though I like She-Hulk, I can acknowledge they've had a couple of really weak episodes. But I was thinking about this. I was kind of in deep thought. Because one of the things I do on this channel that a lot of other YouTubers don't is I do self-reflect a lot. You know, I think some folks get too kind of caught up in the money, but here on World of Geekdom, I can actually think about things. And I was just thinking, how varied the opinions are, and not in a bad way. I did my Andor review, and I saw a lot of your comments, and one thing I'm real proud of is the community here on World of Geekdom is better than a lot of other ones. Because y'all weren't calling me stupid or anything like that. You weren't being insulting. Most of you guys just said, I like the series and here's why. And that's how you have a good discourse. That's how you have a good discussion. You don't insult the other person, call them names. You instead say, okay, well, I understand your perspective and this is why I liked it. And honestly, a lot of y'all made me think. And made me say, okay, well, you know what? Maybe what I'll do down the road is, because I'm not going to watch Andor every week. I'm not going to stay up for it. I'm not going to get excited for it. I was bored to tears first 2 episodes. But one of the things I am going to do is I am going to maybe consider revisiting it later on. If I hear good things about it, if some clip comes up and I get interested, I might check it out. And I'm that way about a lot of things. But it's interesting because, Rings of Power, I was also bored by it, and I love Lord of the Rings, and I love Star Wars too. Both those shows bored me, and I'm not some ADD guy. I'm not one of those guys that has to have excitement 24/7. All my entertainment. But the shows just didn't capture my attention. It's no different than Stranger Things. Everybody I know loves Stranger Things, and they always tell me, Danny, you're an '80s baby. You were born in the '80s. You should love this show, and I just don't. I watched 3 episodes of it. It did not capture my attention, and it is what it is. Now, I do understand why others like it. It just didn't capture my attention. I have way too little time nowadays to devote to watching stuff that doesn't really intrigue me. Now, with that being said, I saw the comments for Andor, and I saw the comments for also Rings of Power. A lot of y'all agree with me on that Rings of Power is kind of lackluster. And one of the things I try not to do on this channel, unlike a lot of other people, is I don't really care about the whole personal politics, woke, anti-woke nonsense. I don't care about that. There are obviously some instances where wokeness and this sort of personal, this sort of a personal politic thing can get really annoying, right? I think we can all agree on that. And also the hypocrisy of the companies. But I see it as that. I see a lot of the wokeness, the pushing of certain, quote, agendas as being a corporate thing. Disney does this to appeal to a certain subsect of the world. And whether or not you agree with that, that's up to you. But for me, I look at the piece of art for what it is. I look at it, am I entertained? Why am I entertained? Why do I like it? That's why I'm always very real with my reviews. And I always say, okay, if you're this kind of person, you'll probably like it. If you're this kind of person, you probably won't. I try to do that. But it's interesting because, like I said before, this is not a reflection on you guys. I did read your comment, and I like what y'all have said. But, some people really don't like She-Hulk, right? And that's fair. But what's interesting about this, what I was thinking about with my own self-reflection is, why do I like it? And I find myself entertained because the main chick in the show is cute. I find her cute and she has charisma. She carries the show for me. Only my opinion. Did they change up some things from the comic? Of course they did. Did they make certain characters a little different than they are in the comics? Absolutely. But to me, I'm still entertained, right? But what's interesting about it is, and I thought about this, as many of you know, I have not watched Moon Knight and have not watched Miss Marvel. I took a break from Marvel TV because Hawkeye just burned me out and there was too much stuff going on, so I had to take a break. And I was also doing other things during that time. I was into other things. And I just never really had a chance to try Moon Knight or Miss Marvel. But I wonder, and I really do wonder this, is that why I like She-Hulk? Is it one of those things where, even though I did go see Doctor Strange and I did go see Thor, was it one of those things where I was sort of, I had taken time away from Marvel. I had sort of, recharged my batteries as a fan, so to speak. So I come into this project looking at it, more optimistically, as opposed to somebody who sat through Moon Knight, sat through Miss Marvel, maybe didn't like those shows, and is now feeling the burnout. And that's something that I've always tried to be real with you guys from a real mature perspective on this channel. Like, when I talk about these things, you have to understand that a lot of people, everyone has a different experience in life. So, like, let's say that your mom passed away when you were a kid. Because of that, it may be difficult for you to watch movies like Bambi, Land Before Time, because it reminds you of your own mother. I'm speaking from experience. Or if your father died, maybe Star Wars, it hits you on the emotional level. Everyone has a different sort of connection to what they like. A lot of you guys grew up on Star Wars like I did. Some of you younger guys on the prequels, some of you older people on the original trilogy, and unfortunately for Disney, it's a very high bar, and they have not met that bar for the most part. It's a very high bar they have to hit because of how classic those old Star Wars movies are. So there's probably some kid out there who never even saw the original Star Wars, maybe started watching with Clone Wars or even The Bad Batch, and is now going to go dive into the older material. But his perspective is like, okay, well, I like this, and this is what I grew up on, so on and so forth. You're always imprinted on what your childhood reflects. So I try to go into this thinking, okay, if this person hates a show because it's woke, maybe they are exposing themselves to too much woke stuff, or maybe too many of these YouTube channels that constantly push that down your throat. Maybe that person should take a break from it, or maybe they should focus more on entertainment they like, as opposed to, like, Disney and companies like that are going to do that. Instead, focus on maybe playing some video games or reading some novels that aren't, pushing that political agenda, because we know that Disney's going to do it. Right, we know that. And I'm not one of those guys going to weaponize your anger, bro, like everybody else does on here. I'm not really angry because I'm just so used to it by now. I'm not angry about Little Mermaid being black. I don't care. Because that's not even like a big deal to me, because I'm never going to watch that film, because I don't watch Disney live action remakes. I don't watch any of them because most of them are trash. I saw freaking, which one did I see? Maleficent, and I thought it was complete garbage. And I've only heard horror stories about the other ones, and I've heard that Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin are okay, but like, still, I'd rather not waste my time with it. I'd rather watch something else, you know what I mean? And that's how I've always been on this channel, and unfortunately it kind of robs some of you guys of seeing my reviews on things you're probably curious about. Like, you're probably curious about what I think about those movies individually, but I just can't sit through them, because I love the original so much. You understand me? You feel me? So I just refuse to watch them. I just don't want to watch them. I could watch them and make reviews and make some money off of it. I don't make too much here on World of Geekdom, but I make a little bit. It's a good extra change. It's not like what I make on my main channel, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not really about the money. I'd rather just not even go see it, because I know I'm going to hate it. Like, I know even if the movie's good, I'm still going to compare it to the original, because that's what it's branched off of, the original. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of comment on kind of what's been going on with these communities. And again, my community here on the channel is great. There are some more toxic ones out there, obviously, but I've just been really intrigued by different opinions. Some people love Andor. I saw some very close friends of mine love Andor because it's so different, and I respect that, because it definitely is different. I pointed that in my review. It's just that it didn't get going quick enough for me to really be interested. I'm not one of those guys that has to see starships in every episode of my television show, but like, the character of Andor was never interesting to me. I didn't care about him in Rogue One. I don't care about him now. They didn't, with the 2 episodes that I watched, they didn't get me to care about him. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to watch something else. So that's kind of been my mentality, but some of y'all love it. That's cool. Anyways, just wanted to give my thoughts. What do you think about all this? Let me know down below. And remember, always think for yourself, and always give something a chance if you want to. You are in control of your own time. Take care.